This Ivysaur looks like a clean 9 until you magnify the corners and the back centering. Watch closely right here. These errors is why it won't get a 10. Let's break this Ivysaur down on an episode of Guess That Grade. Step 1. The value and decision. So we're going to talk about whether this card is actually even worth grading or not. So the first thing I like to do is go to pricecharting.com, pull up the card and see what the comps are for ungraded versus the different PSA variations from 7 to 10. You can see here it's quite a range. The second part I like to do is actually go into eBay and pull that up to see what the current buy now price is, otherwise called a bin number. Then I would go and research the most recent cards being sold for that specific type. So the Ivysaur, I'd look up the 167, I look it up in tag, and then I also look it up in degree. So we can see here tag rating's actually worth more on eBay's recent sold than it was as PSA. Then when I pull up degree grading, there's only 2 recent solds, and one's English, one's Japanese, and it's a lot less in price. And we can see that degree 10 in English actually only sold for $60, which is significantly less than tag and PSA. So it's up to you whether you want to grade with them or not. But let's really break it down visually here. So we have PSA, which has a total value here of $99.50 after card value and taking all the other fees in consideration. But for PSA and tag, you're not only paying to ship your card out, but you're also paying for the return shipping and insurance. In PSA's case, is $24.99. And for tag, it's about $19. So I did round up a little bit to include the outgoing of the actual shipping of that item. Now degree grading is way cheaper, and it's because it's mostly a newer company, but they also provide you shipping for $5 that covers there and back. They actually send you a shipping label and everything, so it's significantly cheaper to send it out, and that's why I went with degree grading. But after looking at what it actually sells for online, right, for a PSA, a tag, or degree grading, and then taking into consideration the cost, there's absolutely a significant difference in the value based on branding of that company. So you have to take in consideration which one do you want to go with. So let me know, is this worth grading? And if it is, who do you go with? Now to step 2, we're going to talk about the centering. Now this is an incredibly important part because this can really make it or break it for whether it's a Gem Mint 10 or not. We have PSA, tag, and degree, and at the top here I've laid out all their different tolerances. There's a plus or minus 10% on the front for PSA and tag, and it needs to be perfect for degree here. You can also see we have a left and right and top and bottom. This is what the actual measurements are on the Ivysaur card. Now when people are doing centering, I think they do it in different ways, but generally accepted way is that you take the worst percentage and they use that. So you have the left and right. In this case, there's a 1.2% difference. And then if you do top and bottom, you have a 6.6% difference. And all you're doing there is taking the difference between 15% and subtracting and adding it from both sides. So 53.3 is 3.3% away, 46.7 is 3.3% away, which makes 6.6%. And that is going to be the worst percentage you're going to use, the 6.6, not the other one that's better. Now when you're looking at PSA and tag, they have a 10% tolerance. You can see that there's 5% up and down, so 10% in total, right? So what we're doing here, the 6.6% that we have as the worst difference here on the Ivysaur is within that 10% tolerance, meaning it is met for Gem Mint 10 according to PSA and tags grading. So what does this mean to someone like me that uses degree grading? Well, it says that if I get a degree 10, that it's worth more to me than getting a PSA 10 or a tag 10. You could also just crack it and resubmit it and be basically guaranteed a 10, at least in the centering portion, if you get that right. So it's up to you where you want to go through. Now to the back of the card, we're looking at the tolerance levels, which is significantly more lenient. PSA has a 50% spread, tag has a 30% spread, and degree grading with a 6% spread. So degree's a lot more strict than the other two. Now when we look at these numbers, we're doing the same as the front. There's the left and the right and the top and the bottom. We would need to look at the differences between those 50% numbers, and then we get the total amounts. So in this case, what we're seeing is that the left and right has about a 6% difference, and then the top and the bottom has roughly about 10% difference. So that does put PSA and tag in a yes category for a Gem Mint 10 on the back. Degree, we're still outside of tolerance because the 10.8 is higher than the 6% that they're allowing on the back. So unfortunately, degree won't get a Gem Mint 10. Now let's move on to step 3, the surface. So let's break this down to a few different subcategories. When I'm looking at a card, the first thing I want to do is get a cloth and I want to clean off the front and the back. When I'm looking at the card, I'm going from top and I'm going around the card, looking at the borders, and then I'm going from at the top again once I get all the borders looked at, and then I go scanning left to right all the way down the card. And it's basically like that movie The Patriot, where they say if you aim small, you miss small. And that's why I do it that way. So as I'm going through this, I didn't actually take any videos of me looking at the card underneath the camera. This is underneath the microscope. So I was just taking different angles of it, trying to look at it underneath the light and the microscope at like 10 times magnification or 100 times at some point. But I'm looking at, are there scratches and scuffs, which is something you can visually see through your eye, just like putting underneath the angled light. You can look at stains, discolorations, and dots. Looking at fading, glossing, or print saturation, which is not as obvious as you think when you're looking at the card just with your blind, like your naked eye. But if you put it underneath the microscope, you can actually see those. If you go back to my Gyarados video, you'll see parts where there actually is some of that happening. And then for production defects, any indentations, dents, or pressure marks, and then any print lines. The print lines are more underneath angled light. You're not really going to need an actual microscope to see those. But yeah, it's really helpful to look into it. And as I'm looking at this card, I didn't spot anything underneath my view that speculated any kind of actual issues on the front or back of the card. I actually identified this card as gem mint on the surface. On to step 4, corners and edges. Now you'll see as we start flipping through each corner of the card, you'll see some dark spots on the corners of the cards. That generally means that there's some kind of lift that has happened on the front or back, and that's what I'm pointing out here. And that's why I'm just flipping through, because I've already looked at this through an angled light with my naked eye, but I'm just confirming through the microscope that there's actually something there, and in this case there were. Now when I'm looking at the edges, I'm kind of sifting through this pretty fast. I'm starting with the front side. You can see there's a very slight silver dot on there. It's on the top of the front of the card. And then as I scan through this, on the bottom of it, you'll also see some silvering, slight silvering as well. It's not significant, it's very, very minor. But when I flip to the back, I also don't see anything wrong with the back. So overall, what I did find on this card were on the front, that there was 2 corners on the top that were lifted, none on the bottom. The back had 2 corners that were lifted as well, and a slight lift on the bottom left. So in total, there was about 5 corners potentially with an incredibly minor lift. And then on the edges, we had slight silvering on the top and slight silvering on the bottom with nothing wrong in the back. Based on everything that we've talked about, I predicted an 8.5. What grade do you think? Please leave a comment down below. Now this graded at an 8.5 by degree grading would actually depreciate the value if you saw the comparison earlier. PSA 8.5 or even a tag 8.5 would not be worth as much as a raw one. So if you're trying to resell this, it might be worth cracking it from a degree grade and resubmit it to PSA, because it's probably going to get a 9.5 from a PSA standard. Now I don't know that for sure, but I want to try to submit a PSA one day and I'll probably find out. But I already have 20 cards in total through degree grading, and my next step will probably be using tag because I like them a lot too. But if you like this sort of content and want to follow my journey for the results of this grade, please give me a follow and a like. Until next time, keep guessing that grade.